Hello, and welcome to Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast where I talk about all of the things I love, some of the things I hate, and this wacky adventure we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I'm glad you're here today as we welcome two special guests to talk about high school marching band, running, and why acronyms matter. Let's get started. Welcome back. As always, my first question is, did you do the homework? Did you watch some Star Wars? I did, of course. Not a week goes by that I don't watch Star Wars, probably. I watched A New Hope this week, twice, and I enjoyed every minute of it. We'll talk a lot about New Hope on next week's podcast, so I hope you'll join us for that. On today's episode, a longer episode, but honestly, I didn't want to cut out any more of these great conversations with two very special longtime friends. First, we have a conversation with Dane Newlove about high school marching band and his time with the St. Mary's Memorial High School Band. Next, we'll talk about running and the upcoming cross-country season with Van Wert High School cross-country coach Bob Spath. And of course, a rant about why acronyms matter. I enjoyed these two great conversations with two even better men, and I hope you do too. Let's get started. All right, we're here with Dane Newlove. Dane, what's going on, buddy?
Bob, it's good to see you, man.
Symbols and Cynicism on location at the Newlove Estate.
Yeah, the palatial mansion.
The palatial
right.
mansion. Dane is the longtime band director, now retired, but you were longtime band director at St. Mary's Memorial High School. No, that's not a Catholic school. I made that mistake when I first moved to the area. The town is St. Mary's, the high school is Memorial.
Yes.
And there's no apostrophe in St. Mary's.
There is not, and surprisingly enough, uniform manufacturers do not always know that. One of our sets of uniforms, the director blazers came in with apostrophe in St. Mary's, and it's like, yeah, guys, this is not correct.
Did you get a free redo on that?
We sure did.
Okay,
Thank you.
And how long were you band director at St. Mary's?
I was band director for 27 years here.
27
of my 30.
How long are you? You've been retired how long now?
This will be my 13th year retired, and our viewers can't see me doing air quotes, but you know.
We've joked, you and I have joked a lot. You've sort of flunked retirement.
Yeah, I flunked retirement. Yeah, I don't think music educators ever totally retire. You know, we just find another chapter in the book to open. So.
Well, the good ones don't retire. The good ones keep giving back. We'll get into that.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a little bit. Dane and I first met when I was first teaching. My first year of teaching, I was new to Northwest Ohio, and I was in my band room, and the phone rang one day, and on the other end of the line was Dane Newlove, who was younger than I am now, version of Dane Newlove, and introduced himself, invited me to an upcoming Ohio Music Education Association meeting, and the rest is history. If there was one person that would be a father, brother, friend, and very distant cousin all at the same time, it's definitely Dane. But kidding, and all kidding aside, Dane's been one of my best friends, and we've been through a lot together, and we're certainly glad to have you on the program. What did I leave out? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Are you sure I invited you or said, you know, hey, Bob, you're going to this? And you know,
Well,
I think it was more of that than just, why don't you think about it?
I think actually it was, here are directions to Lima Bath High School, see you at 7 o'clock. Yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
So tell us, what else, what did I leave out?
I would like to think that you've been my mentor and one of my best friends as much as, you know, the other way around. You know, this is not a profession that one can get by very quickly or very successfully on your own island. And, you know, I think that's one of the things with our young teachers that are hopefully listening to your podcast. You know, you got to find your people, and, you know, we've definitely been each other's people. So.
Absolutely. I think one of the things too, mentorship wise, not just in the band room and professionally, but also personally, I watched your 3 kids grow up and watched you and your wife together and her be a band wife, mom, slash everything else. So all of those things wrapped into one, right? No person is an island, and especially here in Northwest Ohio, there are so many programs that are individual directors or individual teacher in a school that we need to connect, and that's one of the things about this area that I've always really appreciated was.
Absolutely, and I know you remember some things like this, but my middle child Amanda, who left her folder at home before a large group contest, and Bob is in the band office doing his finale magic for a English horn solo transposed to alto saxophone, and hoping that the transposition was correct, and I think it probably was.
I think it was.
And my last large group contest at Van Wert, you had a rather flattering picture hung up all over the place. I still don't know where you got. Well, I do know where you got that. That was Karen.
Picture was amazing.
Yeah. Well.
It was amazing.
Okay, you have low standards then. But continuing.
I definitely do. Well, we're not here just to relive the old times on a podcast. We could do that. It would be a 14-hour podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a limited number of hours of upload per month. So we're here today to talk about high school band, specifically high school marching bands. Band camp season. Some bands are done with band camp, just getting into it, or in it now. I see on social media, everybody's in camp, at camp, done with camp, packing for camp, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
School starts soon. High school football is around the corner, and I want to talk to you today about traditional style of marching bands and marching band traditions, sort of all wrapped into one. Being at St. Mary's 27 years, and St. Mary's band known as SMAB.
Right.
St. Mary's All Brass Band. It's an affectionate title, SMAB. Yeah. And certainly they are a traditional band. Tell us a little bit about SMAB.
Well, the St. Mary's All Brass Band started in the fall of 1954, and Jim Strauss, who is or was one of the owners of Stanton's Sheet Music, actually graduated from St. Mary's and was heading toward Ohio State, and of course they were all brass at that time, and the director here, sort of asked Jim if he would help him turn this into the all brass band, and that's when it started in 1954. When I came in 1985, my mama didn't raise no dummy, and that was 30 plus years as the tradition, and that wasn't the hill that I was going to die on with trying to change that. Would an all brass band be something that I would change, if I went into a traditional setting? No, probably not. But I decided that wasn't worth the effort to change that, and just the community outcry, so to speak, and alumni, etc. So
did the administration at the time make it clear to you it was an expectation to stay all brass, or was it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've often wondered, we don't hire football coaches and then tell them this is the offense that we run here.
Right.
But we do that to band directors all the time.
Well, we do.
We say, well, this is our pregame, and this is our fight song, and this is what we do with our marching band. And as a young director, you walk in with all these hopes and dreams of what you would like your program to be, and then you get handed the playbook, so to speak, and you spend those first months running somebody else's.
Yeah, when I came here, obviously being a percussionist, I wanted to try to modernize some things that were going on, and I added some cadences, and I changed the roll-off, and you would have thought that I burned down the Catholic Church here in town. There were people, we can't, it's like, okay, fine, this isn't, you just have to know where to fight your battles.
Change the cadence back.
Yeah, right.
Over time, by the time I got around this area in 1998, so when I came here, so you'd been here 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
You were synonymous with the all brass tradition. I knew it extended before you. I learned over the years, but Dane Newlove and St. Mary's All Brass Band was synonymous. Is that something you enjoyed being known for as a director?
Yeah. Well, it beats being known for other things, I guess. But it was it was okay. We had our own style. It worked for us here. I wouldn't say that it would necessarily work for a neighboring community, somebody that wanted to maybe change to that format, you have to know your clientele. And, for us, that was fine.
What are some things you enjoyed about that tradition of being all brass?
Well, it was certainly a unique sound. We were really fortunate through the 27 years. We had a lot of low end, a lot of tuba. That was really the thing. Kids didn't shy away from that big instrument, and that sort of helped it become a little darker sound than perhaps, some of, other all brass groups, with a piercing sound, sort of a really bright sound. We had fortunately had very decent drum line through the years. We were able to do some contemporary things with the drum line, some split bass drum parts and some things like that. So, it was fun.
And at one time, the St. Mary's band was the largest high school all brass. Was that a thing? Am I making that up?
You're not making that up, no.
Okay.
I think probably one of the largest high school all brass bands in the state.
In the state, okay.
Yeah. And we would sort of joke, in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia. But we were. I think that trend was probably back in the 50s and 60s. In our area here, Wapak used to be all brass. Ottawa used to be all brass. Elida, perhaps, in the Western Buckeye League, which is close to West Central Ohio.
Well, Allen East, Arlington. I mean,
Yes.
there were several,
Yeah.
and some of those bands they've switched for various reasons.
Sure.
Some of that being director overturn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're not directors don't stay 30 years almost
Right.
like you did
Yeah.
at St. Mary's, or they're leaning toward the contest end.
Yeah.
And in today's era of adjudicated marching band, you kind of got to have woodwinds.
Yeah, you kind of have woodwinds, and also you kind of got to have a guard and things like that. And we did not, have a guard. Every kid had an instrument, which is unique.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about continuity. My successor was here for 21 years, and I was here for 27. So that was 2 band directors in 48 years, and that really helps with the the expectation of the all brass band and what we did here.
Not only that, but Becky Anderson was here with you for how many of those 27?
Becky was here through all 27, and she was here a little bit before me, so she's actually got a few more years.
Well, I knew you two retired together at the same time, but I didn't know when she got here. So
Yeah, we retired at the same time because neither one of us wanted to try to break in somebody new by ourselves.
Right. Get out while the getting is good.
Yep.
What are some, away from being all brass, which is a key element of the tradition of SMAB, what are some other traditions that either were in place when you arrived or sort of became traditions as you were here, and maybe they still are 13 years later, after you've gone?
I was fortunate in my last 2 years of teaching to move in to a new school, but we kept the same football stadium at that time, which any of our listeners know, St. Mary's. It was downtown by railroad tracks. Definite home field advantage for the Rough Riders all those decades, and we kept the same pregame, the entire time. We'd line up in 2 lines and march out, and sort of OSU-esque, so to speak. We did that, and that was always a neat thing. Toward the end of my career, we brought back the male drum major, like the twirling drum major that OSU has. We brought that back, and that's still going now. In fact, a lot of our kids from St. Mary's, they go down to Ohio State. 2 of the kids, one is the assistant drum major this coming year, and another one's going to be on the D row, the drum major row. And there's kids in the pipeline that's their goal, is to do that, which is really sort of neat.
I know you also have done script writers.
Yeah.
Did you start that, or was that around?
I actually started that, and interesting that you say that. This is the 35th anniversary of script writers, and I wish I would have thought to have kept track of all the people that had dotted the I. The tradition that we kept was it was always a senior and was voted on. by the senior class. And there was one year that we asked the football coach at the time, who was a legendary Skip Bachman, we asked him to dot the I, and he refused. He said that should be an honor for the student. But the script writers was actually developed by a student that was a senior field commander at the time. He and I sat down and plotted out, 130 or however many dots, on paper by hand. We didn't have computers back then. And that's still going. And the cool thing is he lives in the community, and his daughter is a sophomore in the band program now and has another one in middle school. And, so it's just the history and the continuity. But
it's another thing about a lot of these communities in our area. People grow up and tend to stay and raise their kids. And so you're there 27 years. I wonder how many kids you taught of kids that you had taught.
Oh, wow, there a bunch.
Lots.
Lots and lots.
But
so some I don't even probably know. Like, the former students got married and I don't recognize.
Right, change of name.
Sure.
And so forth.
Sure.
Until they say, you taught my mom.
Yeah, and I can always always remember what instrument they played, and I don't necessarily remember the name. So
Susie Trumpet.
Susie Trumpet. Yep.
Now, script writers, just for a second, was it always a tuba to dot the I, or
no? It was never intended on being a tuba to dot the I. Because there wasn't always a senior tubist. Is that a word?
Right. I think
Tubist.
so.
Yeah.
It is now.
Tubaist. Yeah.
It is now. One of the other great things growing up watching you, I was an adult, obviously,
right.
but growing up in the profession, watching you and our schools played football, so we saw each other once a year there. We'd see each other at Solon Ensemble, large group, and we saw each other all the time on a band-to-band professional level. That I always really admired was your standing and then the program's standing in the community. It was evident that there was a really great relationship between program and community, and that isn't built overnight. That's long-term fostering of that. So I know this is a 45-minute answer that we can't have, but what are some things that you did along the way that you think helped build that relationship?
Well, and we've talked about this a couple times. A lot of it is the continuity of the program, the director. You're not changing a director every 2 or 3 years, and people don't know maybe who the head director is. That continuity really helps. It was sometimes a curse, but more often a blessing, like to go to the grocery store and have somebody sit there and say, hey, good job at the football game last night, or they would say, you didn't play enough in the stands, and that's why the team lost. And I had that. Had people that would do that. So it was on both sides, but very, very, for the most part, very positive.
And it takes time to build that.
Yeah.
I remember Vince Pulsey talking about longevity in the community.
Yes.
Vince Pulsey once told me, again, as a young director, find your castle, build the kingdom around it.
That's great.
Sort of idea.
Yeah.
And you're not from St. Mary's.
No.
Did you ever stop feeling like an outsider?
Oh, yeah. And I don't remember who told me this, but when you follow a dinosaur, and dinosaur is an absolute affectionate term for somebody that's been in their job a long time and is adored in the community. It said when you follow a dinosaur, it takes 4 or 5 years, to get rid of that shadow, so to speak.
Before it starts to feel like you've made your stamp on that program.
Yeah.
And that's important for young teachers, directors, to understand. It's not going to feel like your job in a week, a year, or even 2.
No.
You got to get your kids that recognize you as the authority, you as the director, you as the one who sets the pace.
My predecessor was very good, never said a cross word about anything that we were doing in my program, and I would like to think that I've done the same with the people that followed us.
I can attest to that. You have, there have been 3 directors since you retired?
They're on the 3rd.
You've always been very supportive of them, welcome them not only into your community, but into your family. I know that, been over the house. Of course, now, Maddie and Howie, at St. Mary's were both former students.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
Howie sort of second generation because
Yeah.
you were retired,
Yeah.
but you're still involved with the program. We'll get into that in a little bit. So what's it like to watch Maddie and Howie, you know, in charge of the program? They're sort of your kids from a music education standpoint.
Yeah.
And now they're taking charge of the program that you spent 27 years with.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see them work, and whenever I see them in action, like at band camp or a football game, if I go to a football game, it's like, gosh, I did this for 30 years. You know, it's pretty amazing. Getting back to the community support, when I interviewed here, I had 3 or 4 interviews with the superintendent, which I thought was crazy. I thought was, you know, very overbearing sort of. But I remember him telling me that the 3 most visible people in our community were the football coach, the band director, and the superintendent, and not necessarily in that order, you know. And that was always something that I, you know, sort of kept in the back of my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Any memorable performances? 27 years has a lot of memorable performances.
Oh, yeah.
And we're isolating it to marching band. I know
Yeah.
there were, you know, St. Mary's in your time had a lot of fantastic concert bands too, but you know, marching band specific, what are some memorable performances?
Well, we got to do the Buckeye Invitational at Ohio State a couple of times. We actually did it very early on in my career. It might have been the second year that they started doing this, like in 86 or 87, something like that. And then we did it at the tail end of my career, my last year, actually, and it was neat because my son was drum major that year and got to experience that with him. We did a skull session one year at Ohio State, which was a lot of fun. You know, not necessarily a marching band thing, but we would go down, you know, every year or two to play at a basketball game, either a women's game or a men's game at Ohio State. We did some college band days, and then of course the trips that you know most of us take with our groups. You know, we did not do the same trip every 4 years. We did something else, and we sort of did parades. Last year, my final year, we did the Citrus Bowl parade, and then marched at Disney on New Year's Eve day, and that was insane. That was just crazy. Did Philadelphia Thanksgiving Day parade, and was in New York City on Black Friday, and had our picture taken at 5:00 at Times Square, and it's like, oh, okay.
New York City on Black Friday.
Yeah.
And and Magic Kingdom on New Year's Eve.
Yep. Yeah.
You don't have a calendar to know when the free days are?
Right.
You just go right for it, I guess,
just
right?
Go for the jugular.
Me and 200 of my friends
Yeah,
trying to get
right.
to Times Square
Yeah.
on Black Friday.
Yeah.
All brass marching band, benefits to that, drawbacks to that. What were some benefits? Where you mentioned you wouldn't necessarily recommend somebody starting that tradition.
Yeah.
But what were some benefits that maybe they would think about that?
Well, as you had said earlier, we were not a contest band, a band that went out to, you know, adjudications. I liked the sound. I liked a little more exciting sound with that. We were able to do 5 different shows a year. You know, just that continuity, or the variety that we were able to do with that. That worked well, unless the football scheduling gods did not cooperate. Like there are 3 home games in 4 weeks, and that was a challenge, you know, sometimes. So, you know, our drill would not always be, you know, shall we say, difficult, or lots of it. So, you know, but you know, we do what we had to do. But again, our people sort of expected to be entertained and see, you know, something different at halftime.
As the opposing director, watching the St. Mary's All Brass Band, I was always jealous when it would rain and you never put any of your instruments away. We'd have to put all our woodwinds away, and the band's half as big as it used to be.
Yeah.
And then I'd look over, and you still got 120 kids playing instruments.
Yeah.
I was always a little bit, not jealous enough to make the switch.
No.
But I was always a little bit jealous of that you never had to worry about,
Yeah.
you know, the fragility of woodwinds and weather, snow, rain, and all of that sort of thing. Brass and percussion, you just keep on going.
Yeah, and we had our snow issues too, because, you know, there was a point in time back in the 90s that, you know, we were at the state final football game 3 out of 4 years in December, late November, early December. And, I can remember practicing script writers in the snow here. So
You were the playoff king of Ohio.
well, I was, and then our
For a
friend,
while.
and our friend Dan Ruckman is now
No.
that. Hi, Dan. So,
And Brad Spett,
Brad
let's not
Spett,
forget Marion
yeah.
local.
No.
Marion and Coldwater kind of
Yeah.
rule the Ohio football
Yeah, they do.
landscape.
Yeah.
What were some drawbacks to the all brass band?
Well, the drawbacks. The number one thing was just an inventory of more brass instruments than what a school would normally need to have, especially the larger instruments. Now, a lot of our kids had their own trumpet and trombone, but no kid's going to buy a mellophone or a baritone or obviously a sousaphone. So the inventory and just the upkeep with that was a little bit more. Obviously, larger instruments create some travel, issues as well. It was not terribly easy at times to travel with the all brass band, but we obviously we made it work. Certainly the biggest drawback for musically is those woodwinds weren't playing during the fall, but we found really for the most part that if a kid was really good and very proficient on the woodwind instrument, they're going to be the same on a brass instrument.
Did you ever have any pushback from those kids? Little Billy or Susie, they in fifth grade pick their clarinet, their flute, and then they get to high school band, and in June or May, you hand them a trumpet or a pair of cymbals or a bass drum and say, here, you play this now. Did you ever get any pushback from the kids or the parents?
Very little until I'm not going to say until the end, but I guess later in my career, just having to be a good salesman as far as starting woodwinds in the fifth grade. We would very seldom switch a kid to a percussion instrument, because we had enough and we didn't need to do that, so it was going to be a brass instrument. But again, it was the expectation of the program and the longevity.
Yeah, I mean, when it's been 40 years, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, you hate to say it, but it's how it works here.
Yeah.
Can sometimes play into your favor, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever sit down with, we mentioned Becky being your co-director for a long time. Did you guys ever sit down in the band office and say, you know what, let's add woodwinds to the marching band? Like, let's make the change. Was there ever any serious discussion about that?
Any serious discussion? No. I can remember one year we did a jazz show, and we used a drum set on the sideline. The horror. Had a drum set, and the saxophone kids that were in the marching band, we brought them up and they played saxophone for one of the numbers. And this was real early on in cell phones. And I get this text from a friend who's sitting up in the stands, we're the all brass band. It's like, okay, yeah, it's all right. Just chill. Yeah, it's
Well,
one
saxophones
song.
are made of brass.
Yes, they are. It's one show, one song,
But there's also, you mentioned that. It's interesting because when you play stock charts that were written, those stock charts are written for fully instrumentated ensembles. I write some drill for an all brass band, and I had to call the director and say, you realize these 16 measures, like the flutes and clarinets have the melody, who do you have playing that? And the answer, of course, is, well, we're going to rewrite that, for the trumpet parts.
Yeah.
But there are some of those challenges too, where when you don't have the full instrument, unless you're hiring an arranger, which most of the time you did not.
No.
You're playing stock charts,
No.
and so you have to be creative about some of those sorts of
be
things.
creative, and you have to be careful. Also, I did a lot of rescoring, depending on the piece.
Insert copyright note here. So and we alluded to this a little earlier. In retirement, you stayed involved with St. Mary's Band, not just St. Mary's, a lot of area programs. Start with St. Mary's. What's it been like to be the retired director? You obviously went from Mr. Newlove, the recently 1 to 2 years out. They still sort of see you as their director, and now, 13 years later, you're Mr. Newlove, but a different version of that. I mean, they know you were the director, but there's not that particular authority.
Well, surprisingly enough, I bet there's kids that don't know, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's like, who is this old guy coming in the band room?
They don't notice the 15-foot statue on the way.
No, not at all. No, it's I get asked that question a lot, and I know I'm lucky here to have the relationship with, the two current directors who you said, they're former students, but also the two, head directors before them. We became best friends, and they openly, said, please come in and, give us advice, give us ears, etc. So I know that I'm very blessed to have that.
And that's a special relationship on both sides.
On both sides.
For the new director, it takes a lot of personal assurance and confidence to have a revered longtime director return. And then on the part of somebody like yourself, it takes a lot of humility to be able to walk into a band room and recognize that Mr. or Miss or Mrs. So-and-so that's the person they should be looking at. And I this is my role now. This new role is more background or whatever that is.
When I retired, Craig French followed me, and I said, Craig, I'm not doing anything. And he's like, no, yes you are. I want you to come in and teach concert percussion, and if you want to help with drumline stuff. And I'm like, are you sure? And he was very adamant that I do that. Riley Roby followed him as a head director, and he was the same way. So I'm blessed.
The other thing you've done in retirement is you are the founding person of the St. Mary's Community Concert Band.
Yeah.
Which rehearses in the St. Mary's High School Band Room.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus to starting that? There had never been anything like that in St. Mary's, or not for a really long time.
No, there was an Auglaize County, and they called it Auglaize County Alumni Band, and I'm not sure why it was ever called that. And then that went by the wayside, and that became the AC Swing, Auglaize County Swing Band, which is still going nowadays. Again, Craig French, who followed me, said, "Hey, I think we need to do a community band," and then it's like, okay, that was not ever on my radar at all. And 11 years later, we're going strong and all of that. And again, it's just another venue to for what I do.
A number of people in the band are current music teachers, directors, etc.
Yeah.
What percentage, approximate, I mean, you probably have this fact on your notes, but what percentage of the performers are former St. Mary's band students?
I would say about a third are from St. Mary's and former band students. And like you said, a lot of area, current, future, and retired music educators. We're lucky that at least in the early part of the summer we can get some of the college kids and come in and play, and what a great opportunity for them to maybe be sitting by somebody that's a retired director, and it's networking and just all of that. So again, something I love doing for not only for our community, but we do some performances around the area, and it's just a neat thing.
So if you're in the St. Mary's area and you play an instrument, contact Dane Newlove at retiredsmab. No, don't do that. That's not a real address.
Yeah.
Parting words. Any advice for maybe a brand new teacher, or early in career, or maybe just looking into student teaching soon, and you're coming into the not just band but music education? You've been a champion for music education over the 27 years I've known you. So what advice do you have for near future or new educators?
Well, I think I said this earlier, but you need to know your stakeholders, know your community, your parents, your kids, your admin, all of that stuff. Randall Standridge, who's one of the top band composers today, has this Facebook meme that was on, I think, just this week. Said, don't compare your program to somebody else's, because you have different resources, different scheduling, and different students. And I would add to that, you have different administration and you have different parents also, and that advice always served me well, and I think that's the number one thing.
Hey, let's talk some Star Wars.
Oh boy,
you love Star Wars, don't you?
Let's talk Star Wars.
I told Dane just got fear in his eyes. Not a huge Star Wars fan, but But we're going to kind of go through this with every guest, whether they like Star Wars
No.
or not. So
Yeah.
some will have a wealth of knowledge, and
Yeah.
some will find out how.
Now-
So just
Bob, if
Yeah.
you'd ask me what's my favorite Mahler Symphony, number 2.
two.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, what's my favorite Beethoven? 5 for me.
5. Okay.
Okay,
Fair, yeah.
as a percussionist.
I mean, you
and
can't go wrong with 5.
Symphonist,
Yeah.
But the Star Wars, that's a little not in my comfort zone.
Not in your comfort. That's okay.
So,
We're getting you out of
okay,
comfort zone.
all right.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I have no idea who Luke's father is, and 10 being that you know Luke has an evil clone, how big of a Star Wars fan are you?
I would say between a 3 and a 4.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are aware that
Yes.
the stars are at war.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So this will be fun. Favorite movie? What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Well, Empire Strikes Back, but that was not the first one, right?
That was not. A New Hope was the first release
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. I can remember New Hope in
77.
77. I can remember watching that at a theater in North Baltimore, Ohio, as a high school sophomore.
So that's your favorite.
Well, that is not my favorite.
Oh, okay. All right.
But because I couldn't remember the name of it, so Empire Strikes Back, which was 2 or 3.
Well, that's the second one released. It's episode 5.
Oh,
It
jeez.
gets very confusing.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's the good news.
Great.
That is the correct answer.
Okay.
The Empire Strikes Back is also my favorite Star Wars movie. So
Okay.
you're 1 for 1. You're doing great.
I didn't know this was a contest.
Favorite character?
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, classic, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
farm boy turned
Yes.
superhero.
Yeah.
What about favorite villain?
Well, it's got to be Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. Yeah, again. I would ask favorite Jedi, but you are Luke Skywalker. He is a Jedi, so that would be your. What about your least favorite? You have a least favorite
I
character?
don't know that I have a least favorite because I don't know their names necessarily.
Right.
I know the good guys. I don't necessarily know the bad guys.
Well, they're the ones with the white hats.
Oh, okay.
The good guys, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And what about your favorite Star Wars scene? You got a favorite scene?
Well, it's got to be Cantina Band for me.
Ooh, from A New Hope. That's from A New Hope.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be Cantina Band because I've played that 100 times.
I was going to ask how many. If you know how many times.
Yes.
A million in Marimba
Yes,
Band and
in Marimba
Marimba
Ensemble,
Ensemble.
and Lima Symphony, and so
Yeah, we didn't even get into
yeah.
Lima Marimba Ensemble. You've been a member for decades of the Lima Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
music staple in Northwest Ohio, West Central Ohio
Yeah.
community. Dane, thanks for being here today. Well,
Yeah.
you're in your own house, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't need to thank
yeah.
you for being at your
Sure,
house
sure,
when I
yeah.
showed up and knocked on the
Right,
door tonight.
right.
Thanks for joining the podcast. We
Yeah.
really appreciate your wealth of knowledge. Keep doing what you're doing. We wish you well with this season of all that's going on as you get into your school year as adjunct percussion person for all the people that you do.
All the schools,
Yeah, all the schools, and wish your family the best for us.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for
joining
having me.
Our podcast today, we've got my very good friend Bob Spath here, but as we always do, I'm going to open up my Strava, talk about my last week, and be real open about successes and about failures. I did better this past week. If you were on the podcast 2 weeks ago, you know that I've had a little bit of a foot injury and have not been doing real great, but that has been getting better. So last week I ran 5 miles. That's really good from not where I want to be, but improved from the previous week. I did bike 0 last week. This week so far, it's still early in the week because Strava week starts on a Monday. I've biked 6 and I haven't run any, but I've got a run planned for later tonight. So it's still real early in the week. My friend Bob is here, Bob Spath. We go way back. We taught together for many years, next door neighbors. We did bathroom duty together outside of the bathroom. We've also just been friends away from education. His daughter and my son are on cross country and track teams together. His older son is now graduated, but was on the same track team together. His oldest daughter was in band for many years. And so we've just kind of done a lot of life together over the years. I refer to us as Slow Bob and Fast Bob. I'm the Slow Bob, if anybody wasn't sure about that. So Bob Spath, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You said slow Bob. I would have said old Bob, but that's okay.
Well, that's another fun fact. We have birthdays that are exactly 1 day apart. So on my birthday, he texts me in the morning, how you doing, old man? And then I catch him on the next day. So the same year, 1 day apart,
1 day.
I am the old Bob, which is probably why I'm the slow Bob too.
Yeah, sometimes I get called Mr. Sloan, and sometimes you get called Mr. Spath.
That happened more often than you would think it would. I think it's the whole Bob and the S and the being in the same hallway for so many years and all that stuff. So Bob is our robot and engineering teacher at Van Wert High School. He is also the new head high school cross country coach, middle school coach for a lot of you. How many years have you been middle school
9 years
coach?
there.
9 years there. He's just this summer taken over as the high school coach, along with his longtime friend and coach in the middle school, Tosh, is coaching high school as well. Father of many and the jack of all trades. You do a ton of stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your life. What's your life like?
Well, you said it. A lot of kids. I got 5 kids. Married to my beautiful wife Sarah, 26 years, and my 5 kids. The oldest one's married. He got married, and a month later moves out to Arizona. And we'll talk about that when we get to Strava. And then, my Bobby Jr., my namesake, Columbus, is a senior at Ohio State, and then Noah off to the Air Force basic training here in a month, and then they got Lizzie. She's going to be a junior in high school, and Eli. I love that I got 5 kids.
Yeah, it's in middle school, 7th grade?
Going into 7th grade. He's starting cross country this fall. So my youngest and my 5th, keeping up with the family tradition of running.
I've always said I have 1 child and I feel super busy all the time. I can't imagine having 5, pretty big age spread between married daughter to middle school son, and then you find a way to do everything that you do. You're a busy guy. You do a lot of things. And graduate of the Naval Academy.
Yes, 1997. That's where I met my wife. She's a graduate of the Naval Academy as well.
Go Navy, beat Army.
That's right.
Tell us about your Strava. I ran 5 miles last week. How many miles did you run last week?
Well, I had an advantage over you. I went to cross-country camp last week for the first time as a head cross-country coach, and I got to run with the kids to rescue some kids that were just spent. Ran 27 miles, which I had the previous week. Actually, I only ran 15 because I was out in Arizona visiting my oldest daughter. But the previous few weeks, I had gotten up to almost 40 miles as I signed up for another marathon in the fall to do with my oldest son, Bobby. He convinced me to do the marathon with him. And I told all my kids, when you're ready, I'll do it with you. So
because you're doing Columbus.
I'm going to do Columbus in 9 weeks.
You and I did Columbus a couple years ago.
That's
I did
right.
the half and you did the full. That was my only, but it was my first half. Tell us how you got started. In the activity of running, how'd you get started?
So I started in, when I was young, 6th grade. I ran in a fun run, really enjoyed it, but actually didn't start running for the school. I ran distance track in high school starting in 10th grade, but didn't actually join the cross-country team until my senior year in high school. And I don't know why I waited so long, but I loved it. Ran, kind of just on my own through college, nothing special. I was not a fast runner by no means. I really got into it when I got out of the Navy as a way to get time alone. I don't run with my phone. I don't run with music. And it's a time for me to think and to process stuff and to pray and to kind of like, okay, I'm ready for the day. I run in the dark most mornings. You've been out here, Bob, and it's dark out here in the country.
It's crazy dark. Yeah, you live out in in the middle of nowhere. It's near town, but super silent out here. You don't have a lot of neighbors, lots of straight roads, and just beautiful. I mean, I'm sure you can see all the stars when you're running that early in the morning. And started young, but you basically run forever.
Yeah. First, since I was probably 11 is when I did that first fun run, and then my early 30s when I got out of the Navy and started teaching. That's when I really got into running. When I had my first couple kids, and then I made it a hobby, and I've loved it. I love the feeling of getting up, getting at it, being disciplined, being dedicated, and just finding that time in the morning to run.
And you've run how many marathons have you done now?
I honestly don't know. It's not a lot, probably 6, maybe 10. I don't know. We'll say 5 to 10. I don't remember. But Boston, was probably my all-time favorite marathon, and I'm hoping to qualify again for Boston this fall. I don't know if I'll get there, but it's such a neat experience. And I had expectations from a friend of mine, and they were far surpassed. I had no idea what to expect, and I was blown away. And I've been, you and I did Columbus together, and that was fun. Toledo was awesome.
Yeah.
Your first full.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Even the rain in Boston was like, whoa, wow.
That's considered worldwide one of like the top.
Yeah, top 6, 7, of the world. And, you have 30,000 runners, and then you have 26 miles point to point. They have to bus you to the start line, and you have, 100 buses taking runners to the start line, and just what a neat experience that was.
And you've run it once, but you've qualified a couple of times.
Yeah, I qualified a couple of times.
And then didn't
do it.
Following through.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big expense, and it's a lot of time. I mean, you got to take days off of school. I mean, it's a pretty big commitment. It's not just drive out to Boston on a Saturday and run on a Sunday and come back.
It's actually on a Monday morning. We had to fly back Monday after the race. So I finished the race, got to the station. Actually, we had to check out a hotel room. I kind of bathed in a bathroom, and then we went right to the airport and jumped on a plane.
Can't imagine flying in an airplane that day. I remember we drove back from Toledo, and I got out of the car and was like, "Oh my legs!" I can't imagine flying on a plane and then having to walk off a plane, and with how your legs would just feel like mush.
Yes, if you've run a marathon, walking downstairs the next 3 or 4 days tells you you did it.
So what is a Boston qualifying time? I know it's by age bracket.
It is by age bracket.
And we're in our 50s. So what time will you need in Columbus to qualify?
I'll need a 3:20, 3 hours and 20 minutes. In Boston is kind of interesting because once those slots are filled for your age group, then they're done. So they'll actually start filling those at a faster time. So even though let's say I ran a 3:19, they actually may fill the slots at 3:17. So I always try to run faster than the qualifying time. And that's what I did the last time and made it. So I think I need to run a 3:17, which is like a 7:35 pace, somewhere in there per mile. So we'll see.
That's reasonable for you. That's super in the ballpark, right?
It's in the ballpark. It's just I got to get the distance in. I could go run 15 miles right now at that. But, can I get 26? We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That hopefully you'll qualify again. And do you think you're going to go and do it if you?
Yeah, I won't do 26 because the sign up will already be done. But I'll do the 27 and the 2027 Boston because sign up for the 26 happens in September.
So your qualification time, if your qualification time this November is good for how long?
It's good for 2 years.
Okay,
so I can do 27 and 28.
All right.
So
cool.
I'll do one of those if I can get it. If not, I might try to do another one in the spring while I'm still in shape. We'll see.
Because not every marathon is a qualifying marathon.
Not everyone, and now some of them actually this year, if they have too much downhill, they actually penalize that marathon. They require so.
Right, I read that they adjust the times based on the slope or something like that.
Yeah, total downhill.
But Columbus does not have that.
No, but it's fine. Yeah, in good shape.
So you've run in multiple decades, age-wise.
Yeah.
How is running in the late 40s, early 50s different than running in your 30s?
Yeah, so I've actually noticed in the last couple years, probably this year more than ever before, just the recovery that my body needs. So I'm actually taking some supplements really for the first time, trying to be intentional about creatine and protein. I ice my knees more often than ever. My lower back I ice, Achilles, just being super cognizant of how do I feel before I hit out the door, and what do I need to do that night when I get home from school as far as recovery. And yeah, I want to make sure that I can still do this in 20 years.
And you've had some injuries, especially Achilles injuries, and some lower back issues over time. And
Yep. I get Achilles tendonitis pretty easily. And I actually hurt my back 3 weeks ago now. It's a muscular thing, and I don't know what I did. So I'm just trying to work through it, sit correctly, don't put my wallet in the back pocket when I'm driving, and hopefully it'll eventually go away.
Yeah, well, if you're like most 50-year-olds, you opened the refrigerator wrong and threw out your back or something.
Yes, or get my car wrong.
I mean, that's the difference, right? When you're 20, you can fall off the roof and no big deal. And when you're 50, you eat a bowl of ice cream too fast and you throw your knee out or something like that.
Yeah,
it's real.
Absolutely. It's different.
If somebody's just getting into running, I know when I was just getting into running 5 years ago, you were super helpful with, I had never worked out, I'd never run anywhere, and it's now I want to do a 5K. What are some tips for a new runner, somebody that of any age that's just starting to strap on the shoes and get out on the road?
Don't do too much too early and be consistent. I mean, you don't need to go run 5 miles or 7 miles your first time out the door. Go run for 5 minutes and walk for 5 minutes. Go run for 10 minutes and walk for 5 minutes. Go run for 3 minutes. Even the high school kids today, they were talking about, oh, I remember when you coached us back in middle school and you had us run 3 minutes and walk 2 minutes. And then we built up to run 7 minutes, walk 3 minutes, and how hard that was. And here we are running 45 minutes, 5.5 miles. I said, well, it's because we've been doing it for 4 years. It takes time. Yeah. So
early on with me, you really said go to a good running store, get a good set of, get fit for a good set of shoes. Yeah. And then also socks.
Yep, and you bought me a couple pair of socks. I'm not wearing them now, but as a Secret Santa gift once, and I still have them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That wasn't me.
Yeah, I sure it wasn't. Yeah, socks and shoes are pretty key. And then I also kind of gift myself a fun thing if I reach a goal. And, a nice Garmin watch or, my fuel belt just got delivered by Amazon out here. I'm trying to make sure that the dog doesn't eat it. But yeah, I try to reward myself with something whenever I do accomplish a goal.
You mentioned earlier being consistent in your own running, and that's one thing over 5 years that I have found really inconsistent. I'll go a month and I'll get in 15, 20 miles a week every week. And then whether it's injury or busy life or laziness, I mean, it's all of the anything. You get out of it, right? You take that dip, and then what's some tips to not have that dip be as low or as long as it sometimes can be?
Our bodies and our brains, it's amazing how they can remember so well what you've done, and the confidence. Like even you take some time off or you get only 1 or 2 runs in, it just remembers what you've done. It only takes, a week to get back to where you were. My advice is even 5 minutes counts. Even 15 minutes counts. I mean, your son is so busy right now with summer and fall and as being one of our top guys on our cross-country team. And I tell him, I get it. You got band coming up. Okay, so you can't do a 45-minute run. Can you do a 20-minute run? And I got a couple other kids, same way. I'm telling them the same thing. Okay, I get it. You're dual sporting. Okay, can you do 20 minutes as opposed to 45? Just getting something is better than nothing, especially when it comes to distance running. I don't like garbage miles, but sometimes that's what you need just to get back in it. So then you start enjoying it again. So you're not every time it's not like a shock to your body, like, oh, this really stinks that I'm out of shape. I don't want that for me or you or anyone.
But I think just remembering it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it is enjoyable.
The weather helps, right? When the weather is good, that helps. When it's 100 degrees outside, it stinks. And when it's cold, the treadmill kind of is not the best. But again, better than nothing.
Better than nothing. Something's better than nothing. Yeah.
Let's talk about high school cross-country preview. You guys, you mentioned the high school team just came back from camp.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about the team this year. We're young. We have 30 kids on this team and 13 brand new high school cross-country runners. You're talking about almost half the team is brand new to high school cross-country. I'm excited about that. I'm not nervous about it. I don't have anxiety about it. We always have high expectations at Van Wert to have a great team. We just got to make sure that our expectations aren't unrealistic. You only got one senior boy, and so out of 18. And so I'm not, I don't want him having a lot of stress or anxiety. I want him to enjoy his senior year, and I want, everyone to get better. I got my cheat sheet here. Do I think that we could have a really great boys and girls team this year? Yes. Which one of these boys is going to step up? I'll tell you in about 5 or 6 weeks. I think that your son Harrison and Johan are both going to be really good front runners for us. I think we got, I'll just mention first names for sake of confidentiality. Yeah, Isak and Alex, both those guys, they showed some potential last year. I think both of them are going to be in the 17s. They got a new young man, never run cross before, a couple of juniors, Owen and Noah. I think both of them are figuring it out. Jaden's another one that could be really good. So we'll see. I think we could have Cal, a freshman. I think we have 8 guys in the 17s this year and probably a couple in the 16s based on what they've done in the past. That's unheard of to have that many high school boys running in the 17s. We'll see.
One of your runners that going into probably 6 or 8 months ago, you were thinking he's one of our top runners.
One of our top 3. Yep.
Had some serious, significant health problems. He had heart surgery.
Yeah, he ran his first time this morning back. Got cleared yesterday afternoon, called me.
Yeah.
You know, and him and I had some great talks this morning. He ran 3 miles this morning, which for him, I was pumped for him, and we're just going to dial it back slowly for him. It's going to be a road for him recovery-wise, and I'm glad he's a junior so that we can get him in shape this year and he can come back next year and show off, because he almost broke 17 last year. And so, yeah, he was one of the 3 that I would come back, and there would be 3 16:30s, and then we'd have 3 more at 17:30. You know, when you lose one of those,
right?
That's a hit to the team. But I'm thankful that young man is running. Period. I didn't think he'd. You know, I didn't.
Yeah, when he sent the text last night or yesterday afternoon to Harrison, it was like, you know, he's going to be running, and you know, forget expectations of times and blah blah. Just going to be, you know, he recovered in almost miraculous. I mean, it was supposed to be a much longer recovery, and he just. Yeah, we were looking at 6 months. We were told 6 months before he'd run again, which I said, okay, November. Okay, we won't expect him this year. He'll be around, and he was every day this summer. He was there at practice cheering kids on. And then here we are 4 months later, and we're back. And so, but we know the season's now we're about to compete in a week and a half. Yeah. And so we're only 10 weeks out to postseason, and expectations are not going to be set for him until we get him in shape. But he's that rah heart and soul leader kid. Yeah. I mean, he's a hype man. He's the hype man. The kids gave him the heartbeat award at camp, and he's the heartbeat of the team, to pardon the pun. But he's also he's the hype guy. Kids love him. What about on the girls' side? You have a runner from last year who's now a sophomore. She qualified at state as a freshman. You've got a couple older girls that have been on that regional train there, and some freshmen that have really strong middle school careers. Yeah, so, you know, the middle school team, the last 7 years, our middle school girls have won the WBL 5 times and finished second twice. And that is not translated well to the high school. You know, we've gotten a first place once in the last 7 years and a third place. So we've lost some girls to moving away. We looked at our teams from the last 7 years. And a couple of girls moved away that would have helped out. But we got a great group of girls coming back. Young lady Symphony, sophomore. She stays healthy. She's gonna, knock on the record door before she graduates. I'm convinced that she could potentially break the school record before she graduates. Her body's built to run. She's fast. Noelle, same thing. She's pumped this year. She's ready to roll. She wants to make state. If not, if it doesn't happen as a team, her goals as an individual, and she's showing that she can do it. She runs with Symphony. Yeah, and then we got 4 freshmen, the Fab 4 freshmen. One of them's hurt, got a broken toe, hasn't run. I had her marked on paper as our number 4. Mm-hmm. We'll see how she comes back. But we got 4 freshmen that are just going to step in right to a varsity spot. And again, here it is again, a really young team. Can they figure out the 5K? It might take them a few weeks, a few races to figure out. Everyone says there's only 1 more mile. It's 50% more. 2 miles to 5K. Yeah, for those that don't know, in middle school you run 2 miles in Ohio, at least in a race, mm-hmm. and then high school is a 5K, 3.1 miles. So you add 1.1. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot more. Yeah, you're no longer, anaerobic part, a lot of the race. You're aerobic for almost 100%. They say it's 95% aerobic, and then only 5% anaerobic for a 5K. So you got to learn how to race right at your edge of aerobic capacity. Not only that, but it's intimidating to stand on that starting line, and there are men and women who, mm-hmm. Depending, standing there with you, and you're this freshman looking at, gosh, that's a man standing next to me. Yeah. 18-year-old boys and girls. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of gap in there because of what happens to the human body between ages 14 and 18. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I know you're a numbers guy. You're a stats guy. You are mm-hmm. You got spreadsheets mm-hmm. all over the place. And not asking you to make a prediction, but who else in the WBL? Let's just talk league. Okay. Western Buckeye League. Who else in the WBL is going to have a pretty strong team this season? Not that we're looking for poster information. Mm-hmm, what do they call that? Bulletin board information. Yeah. But who else are you looking at? Okay, that's going to be a pretty strong team in the WBL. Yeah, so I think that if you look at, I've already done the research. I think on the girls' side, you'll see Salina, OG, and Kenton. All 3 are returning a bunch of their kids.
So I think all three of those teams will be good. On the boys, Kenton and Salina could be good. Salina definitely on the boys' side is the top team. I think that they're returning everyone except for one kid. They got probably kid's may very well win the WBL. Saw him a bunch this summer racing and road races. I have a time that I think that we need to go far in the postseason for boys and girls as far as average time. We'll see if we can hit it. They moved to 4 divisions in Ohio this year for cross country. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And thankfully we're in Division 3 and not Division 2. We're right on the edge of Division 2 and 3. And I'm thankful we're in Division 3. I think it's helpful we get rid of Lexington, which is this powerhouse team. They get to go to Division 2.
Yeah.
But then we gain Mount Gilead, which won the low division last year, and they just moved up to our division, but they're not in our regional. I think that helps us. It all comes down to what can we control? Right. We can control how hard we work, how our recovery looks, what we do on Saturdays. And if we do all the things right and we keep everyone injury-free, then we're going to compete. Whether or not that's better than those other teams on the right Saturday, we'll see what that looks like in the fall. I can't affect what those teams look like. That's why I love running so much. You only can affect what you do. Yeah. I can't tackle you or block your shot in cross country. All I can do is run my race.
So you got the times in mind. Is it reasonable to think that we're going to go pretty far in the?
Yeah, it's reasonable. We don't have a single race under our belt. But it's reasonable if a couple kids have some great seasons, great races, and we can put it all together on the right day. I have some times that we need to hit in order to get there, and I think it's a good goal. And why do you in any sport you don't go play it hoping you'll finish last or in the middle of the pack. No, right. you want to finish on top,
right?
And that's what we want to do. Our girls team has not been back to state since 2013. And I've been telling these girls all summer, we can stay healthy, we can get everyone to the start line and improve, then at least we're going to give ourselves a shot at going into the postseason. And if we can put it together for a couple consecutive weeks, districts and regionals, we'll see what happens. But, again, we got some really great teams that we're going to see at districts and regionals that we just got to get through some of those weeks.
And you said it a couple times, as with any sport, cross country is no different. If we can stay healthy.
Yeah.
What are some, other than praying,
yeah.
what are some things you do now or throughout the season to help foster kids staying up? You can't avoid injuries, nicks, pains, etc.
Yeah.
But what are some things you do, some steps you take that help stave off injury?
Sure. So we do some strength training during the summer more than in season, but we'll still hit it in season twice a week. We do a lot of mobility. A lot of times kids have hip problems, less knee problems, it's more hip. So we've really incorporated a lot of hip mobility, hip strength, posterity strength this summer. And we'll continue those things throughout the season so that we can try to avoid some of those IT band and hip flexure and some hip tightness. We got a young lady who's a senior, Harmony, has not been able to run well for the last couple of years because of hip problems. Well, I'm super aware of those, and she and the kids now know, you've got to come tell me early, right away. I'm feeling this right now. Okay, then we're going to back off this workout, and we're still going to get something in, and if you feel okay after that rep, then we'll do one more. If you don't, then we're done, because if a kid has an overuse injury, it's on me, the coach. If a kid stubs his foot and breaks his toe, it's happened, then it's on them because they had a silly accident.
Yeah.
Just like when you and I are training for a marathon together, Bob, my worst nightmare is 2 weeks before the race, I step on a Lego.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm so concerned you put in 6 months of work or whatever it is, and you hurt yourself right before the race because something out of your control happens. And that's what you want to avoid.
Well, I think it's real hard for kids. It's hard for us. It's hard for everybody because you talk about the overuse injury and say something and pull back. You don't do that though. I know you don't do that. You run, because you also have to teach run through the pain and put the pain in a box and put it aside. So there's this fine line of kids have to learn when they need to say something and when they need to push through a little bit, right?
Yeah,
that?
And that's what is it a pain that's because you're sore and it's a little bit of problem, or is it like a pain that's about to become an injury? And until they've run a few years, they don't know. They're like, oh, this hurts. Well, we had a hard workout yesterday. We gotta go run. And I try to get to really know the kids, especially in the summer. I run with every single kid during the summer. Every single kid gets Coach Spath running with them at some point, numerous times. Tell me about how's it going. Tell me about your classes. What's your vacation like? What's bothering you? And so by the time we get into the season, which I think we are in phase 2 now. Phase 1 was all summer. We started phase 2 yesterday. We're hitting it now. We started yesterday with our first real legitimate. We're after it, and we'll do that now till the end of the season. And I want them to be honest with me early, and then we'll ice it, recover it, roll it, stretch it. We'll do whatever we need to do to keep them running, because like we said, consistency is key. If we can keep them off the sideline, even if it means backing off, they're going to be great by the time we get to October.
And it's tough for them too. They want to run.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't want to stand.
Yeah.
A couple times Harrison's been injured and has to stand around. It's like the worst practices ever. He'd much rather run 10 miles than stand and watch.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I mean, absolutely. And so he doesn't want to speak up because then he knows somebody's going to tell him to go sit down.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with the season. Hoping for health of the kids. Hoping for safe travels to all these places and fast times and, good sportsmanship. I know you preach all that to all the kids. Hey, thanks for being here today. Have a great night. And good luck with your cross-country season.
Thanks, Bob, for having me.
You got it.
No, breathe. Find your happy place.
Acronyms. LOL, ATM, NPAC, PIN, IPDP, FBI, CIA, ICE. My head hurts. But let's be clear. The acronym itself doesn't bother me, although they can be a bit much. And I've certainly had my issues with turning them into words like ippy-dippy. If the right people are listening to this podcast right now, you're probably chuckling because in 27 years as a teacher, although we did not always do individual professional development plans, I refused to call them ippy-dippies. IPDP, fine. I just hated saying ippy-dippy. But that's not the point for today. These letters, these acronyms mean something. They stand for the first letter of a longer phrase. We use them to be more efficient in our language. We're in a hurry. We don't want to spit out all the words and all of the syllables, so we take the first letter of each word and we shorten it into an acronym. LOL, laugh out loud. ATM, automatic teller machine. PIN or PIN, personal identification number, and so forth. But if you say PIN number, then you have just said personal identification number, because the N in PIN already stands for number. ATM machine. Automatic teller machine? Does the FBI show up at your door and say, "Hi, we're from the FBI investigation"? Of course not. Stop. Stop adding a word that duplicates the last word from the acronym itself. Just cut it out. It's not worth it. It's annoying and it's frustrating. And you're taking a thing like an acronym, which is supposed to make our language more efficient, and you're making it worse. OMG, gosh. Am I right? I feel better. You feel better? I feel better. Let's move on to this week's homework. It's an easy one. Do something simple and nice for someone. Just something simple. Shouldn't cost you any money. Hold a door open for someone. A lot of people are already in that habit. Maybe you catch a piece of paper that's blowing in the wind across a parking lot. Maybe you help somebody carry groceries or load their groceries. Should be something physical, something that takes a little bit of energy, but shouldn't take you more than 30 seconds maybe. and it should be done without asking. Try to do it, I don't know, maybe 5 times this week, 6. You can hold a door open 5 times this week for someone. They'll probably say thank you, and you should say, you're welcome, have a nice day. See how these simple gestures and simple interactions make you feel. That's today's show. Make sure to leave us a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app of your choice. Ratings help us get noticed. Constructive comments and messages help us make the show better. You can text the show using the link at the bottom of the description, and you can financially support the show by using the Support the Show link at the bottom too. We hope you'll join us next time as we discuss Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Something neat with Matt. Harrison will be our guest for more Star Wars and people who stand up on an airplane. Thanks for joining me today. The theme music today is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. Show logo was designed by John Suh. The show is produced by my sister, Kathy. I hope you'll join us next time for more reflections and ranting on symbols and cynicism.